as you can see, this video is about changing computers, because I've been thinking about the problems of having enough battery life. And the bigger computer, you can see the size of it, this is what I use for my video editing, and as you can see, it's a very good computer and it does have a bigger screen, which is nice. Yet it's not the sort of computer that I really want to carry on the boat, and it does use a lot of battery power. And so I did a bit of investigation to see how the prices were coming down. I'll just close that. And I found that the best deal at the moment are these X230i's, and this is a little computer, and I used to use a Lenovo Thinkpad X61, and this is to replace my X61. And my X61, the battery's gone bad on it, and it's no good if you unplug it like this to walk around the house or go do something else. It's drives you mad, because if you forget about it, it dies pretty quickly. And so I need to get a new battery, and I thought, well, what do? Do I buy a battery? And I checked the prices, they're pretty expensive. And so I thought, well, maybe I should just look at another computer that comes with a good battery. And I found this on eBay for just over £70, and it came with a charger as well. And I'm short of a few of these chargers, exactly the same charger as my other computers use. And so it was a bit of a bonus really, and I'd always steered away from the newer ThinkPads because I was frightened to death of the keyboard. I was very happy with the older keyboard, but I'm happy to say that this new modern chiclet style keyboard, on this particular model anyway, is good. It's very good. It's maybe better than the older one. I like it. I don't find anything, it doesn't feel, I can't notice any difference. You know, I'm using it and it feels just as nice, if not nicer, than the previous one, which was a good keyboard. And so I'm happy about that. Now, what I wanted to do was, what these have, these have a lower voltage. The whole system runs at a lower voltage, with thinner wires and all this kind of thing, and so it doesn't use as many amps. And so the power usage on this, while still going to be considerable, it's still a computer, it's a lot less than my big one. And so I thought, well, is it going to be capable of doing video editing? And so what I took the last video that I made and I copied all the files over onto here, and I had to go at rendering the video on there, and it took about the same time as the other one. This is a Core 2 Duo, and this is a Core i3. Now the i3 and the i5 are pretty much identical. The performance is pretty much the same, and doesn't have any more cores or anything. It's pretty good. So I'm happy that this is going to be able to render the videos, and I wanted to see how I got on. The only downside of this particular computer is the trackpad is not as nice as the earlier trackpads. And so, you know, I'm a trackpad user, I use a trackpad all the time, so I just have to get used to it really. I did notice when I change computers now, my usage on the other computer is everything's flying all over the place, and on this one everything's slow. So I'll just have to get used to it. And then they keep moving things around, like the delete keys in a different place, and the SD card goes in the other side, and all these things that keep changing, which is really bad, you know, that they keep changing these sort of positions of things, because the brain becomes used to where everything is. And it's not good to use the brain power up in that way. It's like filling your hard disk drive up. You know, kind of when you get hard disk drive gets a bit full and everything gets slow. Same with the brain really. we digress a little bit. And so I'm making the video that you see now on this computer, so by the time I've finished doing that, I'll be good to go really. Now the other thing I wanted to do was, this previous computer, all of the videos go onto the hard disk drive and it spins, and so it's got to power that hard disk drive. And what I've done in this case, I've put a bigger USB stick in, and all of the videos are going to be edited and done on the USB stick, which is fast. And I did notice whilst I was copying from the SD card, it's hugely faster copying the pictures over when they're going onto this USB stick over here. And the USB stick, this particular model, is USB 3, not USB 2. So the X230, I think, is maybe the first one that's like, I'm not sure, maybe the others are USB 3. But anyway, the X230 is USB 3. And it means it boots USB 3 and it works good. Now, I did have a few issues with it because it's now more complicated. It's got the secure boot and UEFI boot and all this kind of stuff. But I managed to disable all that, and now it just like boots to the USB stick, just like my old legacy Core 2 Duo machines do. So that's really good. And I was able to, it's interesting that, if you notice, the whole system is running on this tiny little USB stick over here. And the same with this one. This one, the whole system is running on this tiny USB stick. I can take this one out, I think, to show you. It's just a like little tiny thing. And what I did was, I just copied that from this USB stick to a new USB stick that's bigger. So just put it back in. And I didn't have to install an operating system on that computer or anything. I just plugged the stick in, and it just comes up with everything that was on this one, on that one. So that saves a lot of messing around. And with Linux, that'll work on pretty much any computer. You can just swap the operating systems and it will detect all the differences in the hardware and sort itself out from there. So that's one advantage of Linux. What else can I tell you? That's it for this little bit part of the video. I'm going to come in a little bit and tell you about what's going on with the boat, because it's good that I've been stuck here and not feeling like moving, because I've made some very important discoveries, if you like, going over my work, and I've changed what I want to do and reconsidered certain options moving forward with the electric sailboat. It's coming up next. Well, I just thought I'd mention that the computer arrived at about 1 o'clock this afternoon, and it's now at 8 o'clock. We're losing a bit of light here, hopefully it's enough to finish this video. And we're all up and editing and going and making videos using the new system in that time. And there was it came with no hard disk drive. It's much cheaper if you buy it without a hard disk drive. And because I don't use hard disk drives except to store lots of data on, I use USB sticks instead. I don't need a hard disk drive, and so it's economical that way. Right, now I just thought I'd mention that somebody posted about they would want to have 2 hours runtime on an electric engine, be able to do about 4 knots. And this is also my thinking, that I'd like to have that, not perhaps 4 knots. 4 knots is probably a little bit ambitious in my mind for my boat, and so I'm sort of going back. 3 knots will be fine for me, 3 knots. As long as I'm moving, as I don't intend to fight any currents or anything like that. You know, if there's currents involved, I'll just anchor somewhere and wait until the current changes. That's my approach. And same with the wind. if the wind's going the wrong direction, wait until it changes. Now, I had thought, what I need to tell you the whole story. That is that Elizabeth cannot come anymore because of the industrial action and the strikes and everything and all the problems with the airports. I said to her, there's no point coming because it's just too dangerous, could get stuck, lose your baggage, all sorts of stuff. And so we've decided not, so she's not coming here. So the timing has changed, because if she was coming here, we'd be getting on the water about now, next week or something like that. And so the window is moving forward. Now also, there's a heat wave at the moment, and I'm certainly glad to be here in Bromleyard in the house in a heat wave. It was hot. I had a few really hot days on the boat, and there's not much you can do in that terrible hot weather. It's not so nice inside a boat, especially stuck on the land, because if there's no wind and it's just getting hot, it's not nice really. And to go outside and work, this also can be a problem too if it's too hot. So I thought, well, it's good to be stuck here and out of the heat wave. So those were the two things, the heat wave and the strikes and Elizabeth not coming. So I started to think about, what am I going to do? I thought, well, maybe I can go up through the Caledonia Canal, across the other side down to Baltic Sea and meet Elizabeth over there later on in the year. And so I sort of mulled that over in my mind for a little bit. And I thought, well, what about my electric motor? Yeah. Is this going to be a problem for me? So there's all these issues I had to think, because I hadn't intended to go through any canals. And there's also the Kiel Canal as another option. And so I started to think about my electrical system, and I had intended to put a lot of batteries in, and I've been mulling over that too, because I have the batteries, but they're very, very heavy. And so I thought, you know, if I put that amount of weight on the boat, it's probably not going to be successful. It's better to keep the weight down. And so at the moment, I've got 3 big batteries on the house system and 1 big battery on the motor system. And what I've decided to do is I've decided to change that into 2 batteries on the house system, 2 batteries on the motor system. Now, to put the batteries on the motor system, I had actually envisaged putting a whole battery bank underneath the floor. But as I say, it's going to be too heavy, and it's not good, the situation is not good with that kind of setup. And so I thought, well, the way it is at the moment, if I just leave the batteries as they are, all I need to do is hook up the trolling motor battery with a couple of wires to the other battery that's sitting next to the engine. And it's not a long run. It needs to be not a long run. It's not a long run. But one of the issues you have is, at the moment, all my batteries are fused. And they're fused easily. It's easy to fuse them for normal, everyday running. But if you want to run a trolling motor, this thing is fused at 80 amps. And so you need the rest of the system, the batteries need to be fused at 80 amps. And a lot of people connect batteries together in banks, and they don't fuse them. And whenever I look at this, I think, my God, imagine if you just dropped a spanner in there on top of the terminals or something like that, or if one of the wires worked itself loose and fell out of its its connector, and shorted out, and you've got that big thick wire that's designed to take all those amps. It's super, super dangerous. And so I thought about it, and I said, well, why don't I just fuse the batteries? And looking at it, you actually need to fuse both ends of the positive wire to get any kind of protection, because you could get a problem at either end. If you've got one battery here, another battery there, and then a wire, if anything happens at this end, that it shorts out that, then there needs to be a fuse at that end. And if it's okay at this end and something happens at that end, there needs to be a fuse at this end. Each battery needs to be protected by its own fuse. And so what I did was I went online and I found these are my 3 fuses. So this was a fuse for the trolling motor. And right next to it, and connected to the same terminal, will be this fuse, right next to it, but you need 2 of them. It needs to work this way. Okay, so that one connects the front battery to the trolling motor battery, and this one connects the battery that's in the engine bay, the second battery, to make a parallel system. Okay. Then there's just an earth wire that runs between the 2. Now, and these were quite inexpensive. These were £6 something each, so that didn't work out too bad, really. Okay. But it's a matter of having the system in the head to be able to do this. So, and to get the equipment ready so that when we get to the boat, we've got it all, we're all ready to go, we know what we need. So I now have the plan to hook up, so we'll have 250 amp hours. Now, the other issue is, I thought, well, I could just pull in and into a marina or dock somewhere where there's charging and just charge the batteries and then carry on. If I'm going down the canal, I could do that. So, and use up the 250 amp hours. And then charge again. So I have a battery charger, and that's, I think it's 10 amps, maybe even 8 amps. And I worked out, well, it's going to take at 8 amps. 10 hours gives you 80 amps, 20 hours gives you 160 amps. We're only half full, you know. It's not going to work, is it? And so I went and had a look on eBay, and I found a 40 amp battery charger for £33, which is pretty cheap. And so I ordered that today, and that should be here next week. So, and it's also good to have 2 battery chargers too. It's good if one of them fails, you've got the other one. Can always go down to the 10 amp. You can even plug both of them in and run them both together if you wanted to. Now, as well as being able to charge the batteries at a dock, it's also possible to charge the batteries through a small suitcase generator, and there are boats floating about that have that system where they have a suitcase generator on the back of the boat, which they just fire up when the electric engine needs charge, the batteries need charging because they're using an electric engine. So at the moment I don't want to invest in that. I did have a look around on eBay, and probably to get a as new reconditioned unit is probably going to be about £130, something like that, to get a reliable, good, reliable unit. And then there's a place to put it. The obvious place is underneath the solar panels at the back. And so I'll just bear that in mind, but I don't really want to do anything yet because it's a matter of the money and not wanting to over-engineer the thing. I want to try the thing out first and see whether I really do need this generator or whether I can live just with the chargers alone and docking and charging. So I need to experiment with that first, and I'll know by the time I come to my first canal, I'll know pretty much what the situation is, and I can always buy one of these things at short notice and wait for a week for it to arrive if I need it. Now, the reason for having these kind of systems is because we're sailing on a budget and we can't afford expensive repairs. And so if our diesel engine breaks down, we can't afford how long it takes, I'm also too old to deal with big heavy engines like that. It's necessary that everything that's on board the boat I can carry lift off easily and not have to have special equipment to do this. And so I see each component as being, first of all, the trolling motor. I can deal with the trolling motor. It's not expensive. If it breaks down, I can buy a brand new one and put it in its place. Okay, that's that. Then you've got the batteries, yeah. Well, the batteries are individual, and it seems like there's quite a few. It's easy to pick up batteries because people replace their batteries probably when some of the batteries are okay. Only one battery might be faulty and they replace the whole bank. So it's possible to pick up inexpensive or free batteries, so that's not bad. And each battery can be dealt with individually. So that's the battery side of it. Then the charging side of it, well, you need a battery charger for that. So, and solar charging, of course. And so we've got the solar charging systems in place, and then now we've got the shore charging systems in place, and then we just need the mobile charging system, and that's the ultimate, if you like. You can have that running. And I worked out that you could pretty much, as long as you can run the suitcase generator for, you should be able to run the motor for. The suitcase generator and chargers can be putting out 50 amps. If you hook up both of them, they can be putting out 50 amps into the battery bank, and you can run the engine on less than 50 amps. So you should be able to run it continuously that way. And I still got to prove that, and I still got to prove that the engine will be sufficient to push the boat under normal circumstances, not exceptional. Exceptional circumstances, we've got the anchor for that. Okay, so I'll take 5 and I'll add that video to the queue, and we'll carry on in a bit. Well, one thing I failed to mention was that we can only use half of our battery amp hours, so we've only really got 130, something like that, 130 amp hours that we can use up. And so we've only got 130 to charge also. And so that's just if you make any calculations yourself, you want to halve it. Or, of course, you could always buy a lithium battery and spend a hunk of money and go that way. But I'm pretty much not a big fan of lithium. And so hopefully I can do without a lithium battery. We'll see how we get on. I noticed that the video's 22 minutes long now, so it's probably enough. And I did notice that Wildling Sailing also didn't upload the video last week. And I think the whole world, because of what's happened, is the whole world has had to do a sudden double take on everything. Everything's gone into recess. And everybody I talk to everywhere is stuck and not doing anything at the moment, not moving. And they did fire up the CERN project, which is a very demonic tool under the ground, in a cavern under the ground, the biggest electrical tool. And this creates a planetary situation whereby there's a polarization of the world. And you'll see, since they turned this machine on, we've had Boris Johnson's gone, and this Abe guy has been assassinated, and there's quite a few changes happening, a lot more polarity in the world. And so the way forward, all the strikes, the way forward, really, we just have to wait and see. But I'm starting to move a little bit now, and I've got plenty of time. The things that I've ordered still need to arrive, and I can work on sorting out the house, getting everything cleaned up, get everything ready. I have my new computer, which is now I'm able to edit videos on board the boat without using too much power, and in a small package that suits the size of the boat. And because a big heavy computer is not something, if it gets thrown off and falls on the ground, you know, they are almost indestructible, these Thinkpads, but these X-type ones are a lot lighter and they are much easier to prevent accidents and things from falling and those sort of things. Also, the small size means that they can be packed away better, safer, and so on. So, I hope that gives you some ideas about where we're going forward with the little electric boat. And I haven't stopped, I've just paused, and my journey is changing and evolving, and it looks like we'll be in the water sometime this year. And I am on the 30th of this month, my friend Stephen is moving a boat from down Carnarvon way up to Port Penryn, and he's asked me to help him with that. And so I'll document that process of him moving his boat. That will probably be our next video. I don't make one before then. And hopefully Wildlings have made their video and you'll be able to watch that soon. Thanks for watching.